Okay, so I want to welcome everyone. My name is Lisa Apfelberg, and I am the director of Shamayim, Jewish Animal Advocacy. We are a nonprofit organization that has programs to teach the Jewish community about animal advocacy and veganism. Some of our programs are the Synagogue Vegan Challenge and our Shamayim Campus Fellowship, where we teach synagogues, or in the case of the fellowship, college students how to do vegan programming on their campus, and we reimburse them for the cost of the food. So we would be very appreciative if you would think about, if you know college students, or if you belong to a synagogue you think might want to be a part of that challenge next year. We will be opening those programs up for applications in a couple months. So we'd really appreciate you sending people my way, and synagogues. I wanted to just talk a little bit about the Seder plate. We had a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and we proposed some substitutions for the Seder plate that are plant-based. And for those, we proposed a flower in lieu of the egg, since that represents renewal and spring as well. And we proposed a beet in lieu of the shank bone, since its red mimics the sacrifice, but it is also plant-based and causes no harm to any animal. I really want to thank Melissa for introducing me to Ariel, and for both of you for quickly helping us pull this together. Our goal here was really to do something fun for people interested in a plant-based Passover. We know a lot is changing this year, and so the goal was to pull something together really fun. We pulled it together in about 4 days. Ariel is amazing, was game for anything, has her computer up on her cat, whatever she calls it, tower, so that it could be beaming into her kitchen. So we had a lot of fun planning this, and we really hope that you enjoy it, and it's fun to connect with other people who are leaning towards or having plant-based Seders, even if that means doing it on your own this year. And so I am going to turn it over to Melissa, and then she's going to turn it over to Ariel. But thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Lisa. And yes, thanks everyone for being here. I want to also caveat that this is a demo not just for your Seder. If you're thinking about what am I going to cook for the rest of Passover, we can definitely take these recipes, and hopefully you'll get inspiration to implement them throughout the holiday and maybe even beyond. So hi again. I'm so happy to have you here with us. I direct the Jewish Initiative for Animals, or JIFA. And in case you're not already familiar with us, we're a national initiative dedicated to helping institutions align their food choices with their Jewish values. So typically when Jewish communal settings are not at a standstill, we consult directly with communities and events and conferences to source food that is more humane and sustainable. We also dedicate much of our work to engaging deeply with the issues that surround and intersect with animal agriculture, all through the lens of Jewish tradition and values. We have a couple of Passover resources to use before and during your Seder that are available for free on our website. And I think we'll link those to you in a follow-up email to this webinar. I think everyone here should have actually signed up with an email, so you should be on that list. And I was actually connected with Ariel in preparation for communal Seder that she was going to be catering and I was co-leading. And in light of the circumstances, we obviously won't be gathering for that. But Ariel had already put together this really fabulous, what we call default veg, or plant-based by default menu. And it seemed like a shame not to showcase these recipes and share them with as many people as possible. So when we talked about doing this demo, it was also apparent to us that many people are doing fewer shopping trips right now, might be trying to use things from ingredients you have at home. And so we aptly named this Pantry Pesach, because in addition to those dishes that Ariel is going to showcase, she's a very intuitive chef. She's also stuck at home like the rest of us, and she'll be talking about creative ways to utilize ingredients you have or have just bought, and maybe also how to adapt these or other recipes that you're thinking about making. I also want to acknowledge that we're doing a kitniot-free demo, a legume-free demo. That was intentional because it was originally what we were planning for the Seder, but also it's in response to one of the most popular requests this time of year that we've been getting. But I want to acknowledge that, we recognize that Ashkenazi folks may or may not have a tradition of including kitniot, and we recognize that many folks do, or maybe making an exception for this year. So if you are interested in great kosher for Passover recipes that do include Legumes like chickpeas and other beans and peanuts, those are easier to find, and we'd be happy to recommend some to you. So today, for the first 30 minutes or so, if you have a question, please type it into the chat function. Again, that should be a button probably at the bottom of your screen. It might be at the top for some of you. But we'll try and minimize interruptions during the first half hour, and then we will open it up to questions and discussion. And now I will turn it over to Ariel, who has been a caterer and recipe developer for over 10 years. She specializes in a wide range of cooking techniques, cuisines, and diets, highlighting healthy and delicious eating. She currently works as an events caterer and teaches cooking classes all over the Los Angeles area, and you can follow her cooking adventures on her Instagram at Ariel Freda Smith.
Thanks,
Ariel.
guys. First and foremost, thank you to Melissa and Lisa. They have been amazing in organizing this. I was so excited to get their email and the idea. I was all about it. Much to Melissa's point, I'm stuck at home too. I have a pantry full of things I need to use up. I have limited time as far as the grocery shopping, and who really wants to be outside now. We're all kind of in the same boat here. So yes, I work professionally as a cook, as a chef in a lot of different capacities, but we're all very much on the same playing field here. So I definitely want to emphasize that going into this, that everything here is technique based, it's adaptable, it is flexible, it is easy, none of it is rigid. I told Melissa when I first was presented with the idea that I don't cook with recipes at all. So it was honestly a challenge to write everything out and get that for you guys, because frankly, cooking is about feel, and it's about literally just that, like the original the tools that they use to make matzah in the desert, the tools that they used originally to cook anything, it's your hands. And the reason why is because there's energy to that, to feeling your food, to loving your food. We're going to talk about all that. I also just want to start out by saying as well that I am in no way vegan, plant-based as far as my primary diet. I am, however, like an enormous, as Melissa calls it, an ally for that. It's been a big part of my career to try and cook for clients that want to transition from non-plant-based world to plant-based world and ease that transition when they're missing out certain ingredients, when they miss like a really solid like Alfredo sauce or something. So a lot of my cooking endeavors and these recipes are developed to emulate real cooking flavors. Like there shouldn't be any adjustments just because we're eliminating certain ingredients. Same goes for Pesach. So we've got this double challenge. We're in it together. So that said, we're going to go through 3-4 recipes today. I have some of it pre-cooked. I have some of it ready to assemble with you guys, so you guys have a sense of what to do, what you're looking for. And with that, let's get going. I guess we'll first start out with let's do roasted pepper, the roasted peppers, stuffed peppers. Okay. It's really simple. Instead of spending our entire time here, me at the stove, me everything like that, I have a lot of ingredients prepped here. Obviously, you guys can spend time. A lot of this stuff is, you can make it in advance. You can leave it in the fridge. You can assemble it as you go during the week for Pesach if you want to do it for your Seder. This is a very fluid meal where you can use the sauce from one for the dish for the other, which is exactly where I'm going to go with this now. Before everybody joined me here in my little kitchen this morning, I put together the quinoa mushroom mix that you'll see in the recipe guide. I'm going to send an updated one because as I was cooking through this morning, I've made a few more adjustments. So you guys will get an updated one, but you can also take note just as we go through. It was cooked down. It was really simple. We all know how to make quinoa. You can do the boil in a bag method. You can just boil it straight up, however you make it. I sauteed down some mushrooms, some onions, until they were really nice and caramely. Here, I can even pull one out really fast to show you. Let's use my daughter's spoon. They're very, very transparent, very see-through, very caramelized, very brown. You want to get that like sweet caramel color. The mushrooms as well, you want to get a nice dark color on them. You add in the splash of white wine as noted in the recipe, the tomato paste as well, the tomato sauce. And it's really simple. You get your peppers. You can cut them either this way with the tops off. You can cut them sideways. You can remove them that way. It all depends on how you like your presentation. Here's my knife. If you'll see here, I'll then aim you guys down. They're a little wobbly. It's a little frustrating. You're not going to be able to really like move them around. You don't want to like, as you're moving the tray around, that's annoying for everybody. So what I like to do, take my pepper, you just shave off the bottom. Not enough to poke a hole through it, but now it just sits nicely. There you go. You can do it both sides. Straight down. And now they sit nice. I'm going to take, we'll get to how to make it in a moment, some of the ratatouille sauce that I have just from the stacked eggplant recipe. You want to take the bottom of your tray, just layer like a nice amount, just enough to give it some cushioning, as they say. You go ahead, you pop your peppers in. They're nice and secure. I am a big fan of the ice cream scoop. I use it for everything. I have one for every side of the kitchen, fleishik and for dairy, for everything. And all you need to do is, it's a perfect measurement. You just take it, go straight in to your peppers. One big scoop for each one probably does it. I'll even add a little bit more here. This guy looks a little sad. We want to fill him up nice and plump. This is where you can get creative too with your quinoa mixture. You can put anything in there, as noted earlier, like if for those of us who do eat kidney oat or don't, like you can add corn, beans, chickpeas if you wanted to your mixture. You don't even need to add red sauce to your quinoa. I like to add pesto. You can add a variety of different kinds of pesto. You could do just a straight up basil pesto. I have recipes that I can forward along for a roasted a sun-dried tomato pesto or a spinach pesto. So all of those things are possible. It's really very flexible. None of this is, you can put whatever you want in this pepper. It's going to taste delicious. That's the reality. So you're going to take a little bit more of your sauce. In this case, again, using the ratatouille sauce, just because why not? It's got vegetable, it's got flavor, it's got all the like wonderful herbs, the herbs de Provence. You just top them like that. Get a good hefty amount there. We're going to go ahead and simply cover with aluminum foil. It's not hard at all. You guys are all, I'm sure, capable of doing this. I'm sure you have children who are capable of doing it. And we put them in the oven. That's it. I've got one that's been sitting here that I made this morning. My husband's been asking. He's like, what's for breakfast here? I let mine sit. I like to get mine nice and caramelized. The sides right there, that nice, it's called fond. It's flavor. It's really what you like there for sauce. But yeah, the peppers are nice and soft. If you wanted to throw on a nice, like the almond shred cheese that they get at Trader Joe's, I think, or whatever kind of, if it's not Pesach, you can use obviously a soy cheese alternative or any of those things. You can top it with truly anything. The one thing I don't have in my pantry that I will say the next time I go to the grocery store, and I highly recommend for a dish like this, is fresh herbs. Fresh herbs are something that in this time especially are going to liven any dish. It's going to make you feel like you're eating something a little bit more put together. It's not just, I mean, obviously like red, you can use whatever color peppers you want. In this case, I happen to have red to use up. You could do this with any color pepper, any kind of stuffing combination, any kind of sauce. Like it's very, very flexible. And this is really just what I would call a canvas for you guys to play with. So that is the first thing. Oh, my daughter's coming. Hello. Right now, Mommy's cooking. You want to come say hi really fast? Excellent. Okay, so now we are going to make we're going to do eggplant. Why not? See, it's that simple. We're moving on. I made these this morning. I'm going to show you how we get here. These eggplant pieces, they are nice. They're crispy. They've got the pieces coming off of them. Just like you would like a regular breadcrumb. Yes, they don't get the color on it like a matzah meal, but the truth is when you're talking about breading and things like that in the kitchen as far as Pesach goes, the easy substitutions that you want to make are that flour should just always be substituted with almond flour. It's very simple. And breadcrumbs of any kind are just matzah meal. It's really an easy transition. And the thing that people I think forget is seasoning, to season your matzah meal. It doesn't need to be just a dry cracker laying onto your eggplant. That said, let's get to the dredging. So, okay. We've got 3 bowls. We've got almond flour, we've got potato starch, and we've got our matzah meal mixture. Here, 1 second. We're just missing our almond milk. All the recipe proportions and everything are there in the recipes themselves. Again, I will send probably an updated one. There you go. All right. So the reason why you want to do this potato starch almond milk slurry. And frankly, you're gonna feel it out a little bit probably with this. You want it to be a little goopy like an egg. Like that's the goal here essentially with the almond milk mixture, because that's the replacer. And doesn't this look familiar? It's literally flour, egg, breadcrumb. It's very simple. All right, the key with eggplant, however, is it takes a little bit of preparation and a little bit of extra time. So what I did about 45 minutes ago, an hour now, I'm sure some of you guys, if you're familiar with eggplant, are familiar with this method, and if not, you're about to learn something really great. If you take your eggplant and you salt them, you'll see here, there's like a nice amount of sheen and that water that's coming off of them. Eggplants are, in fact, it just dripped over my laptop. Eggplants are full of water. Same with zucchinis. That's why it's always good to salt them and let them sit, because if you don't, you're going to end up with a soggy product. It's going to release all of that water, all of that moisture when you're frying, or when you're, in this case, I baked them today. You can make them in the air fryer if you have the one that's kosher for Pesach. So yeah, you want to make sure that you're drawing out all of the water from the eggplant. I'm going to go ahead and grab one more sheet of paper towels, in fact. Paper towel is such a hot commodity these days. My goodness, right?
Ariel, just curious, someone is asking if you would recommend another veggie like zucchini for this same recipe.
Yeah, certainly. You can definitely do like a zucchini square or a squash square. I happen to love potatoes. You don't need to bread them. You just do a potato stack. But yeah, there's a variety of vegetables. I would say avoid wet ones like tomatoes, of course. But anything that you would otherwise fry or stack like that, or bread like that, of course, totally flexible. Okay. All right, so again, the seasoning. This is the most important thing. My matzah meal here, I already have this from earlier, but I'll probably add a little bit more. You can see it's a little dolled up. We've got my favorites in particular for this recipe. I like to use just simple Italian seasoning. There's no reason to go through the hassle of buying all your fresh herbs. This is great. This is bang for your buck. Certainly we're relying on our pantry spices nowadays. Use your Italian seasoning. And if you don't even have all of the combination spices here, you don't need all of them. You can use some oregano. If you only have basil, use basil. It's very flexible. If you're looking for a completely different flavor profile, frankly, you could throw in paprika, seasoning salts. You could make it spicy. You could take it in a lot of different directions. My secret recipe, my secret weapon in the kitchen all the time is I have this shaker. I use this whenever something says salt, I grab this instead. And what this is it's 2 parts salt, 1 part garlic powder, 1 part onion powder. Salt is wonderful. Salt is a great thing. You need it for certain things. But when you can add something like garlic powder and onion powder, it's just another dimension. It's another level of flavor. It's just trust me, try it. So I take a bunch of that. I just go ahead and throw in probably about a teaspoon, a tablespoon. As you can see, I don't really measure. You just eyeball whatever feels right. You know your tongue. You know your flavor profile, and somebody can't tell you what you like. Okay. So we give it a zhuzh. For the sake of just hands, I'm going to go ahead and use some gloves. Also a hot commodity. Okay. And it's very simple. I have this tray that I had the eggplant kind of laying over my sink, just kind of drip drying. I'm going to continue to use it for this project as well. All you need to do is take your eggplant, the almond flour. I ran mine through a, let me grab it actually, where is it? Currently has powdered sugar in it, but it's one of these like the mills that you like click it and everything comes out. It's like the dusters. I forgot what the name for that is. But I run my almond meal through that so it stays nice and fine. It comes out like a very flour product. I use where did it go? I don't remember where it is, but I just use the Bob's Red Mill. You want to press your eggplant in. You want to make sure there's a decent amount of coating on it. Again, like if you're familiar with a traditional dredge station, like you know how much flour you want to have on there. This is so that this little milk slurry sticks to the eggplant. You don't want to drop it in for too long because you just spent all that time taking all that liquid out. You just want it for the outside. And go ahead and you plop it right into your matzah meal breadcrumb extravaganza, which now tastes significantly better than the matzah meal that your mother grew up with. And then you just want to bread it all the way around. You take them and you lay them on the sheet. It's a very simple process. You just continue to go down the line. If you haven't heard the tip before, keep one hand wet, one hand dry. I like to go kind of just like 1, 2, 3. Everybody's moving at the same rate, essentially. There we
Ariel,
go.
if
Yeah.
someone is allergic to nuts, do you have another flour substitute like coconut that might work, or any other ideas?
Coconut flour totally works well. It also is a very fine flour, I find, so it makes for a very good flour substitute. If you find that your flours, if your flour substitutes are a little bit mealy and have like the kind of more clumpy pieces in them, just run them through the food processor and make sure they get extra fine, so that way it functions more like a flour, like you would expect. Okay, so for now we've got these 4 pieces. We're gonna go ahead and get our baking tray. We're gonna grab my, here we go. Another thing I highly recommend for everybody, olive oil spray. It is your friend. You go ahead, you spray your pan, you throw your eggplants on. You could also take them at this point and fry them if you want. It's, at this point, I just don't feel like it. It's just a hassle. You could throw them in the air fryer too, and you can adjust the settings. But then you go ahead, you just spritz them with the olive oil like that, and you throw them back in the oven. That's it. And you throw them in the 400-degree oven, and in about 15-20 minutes, they're gonna come out, and they're gonna look something like these guys, like we had earlier. Let me get rid of this. Okay, so now we have crispy eggplant. What do we do with it? We can take it in a bunch of different directions. Again, it depends on which flavor profile you're going for. In this case, we're kind of going for a ratatouille, kind of playing on the eggplant theme a little bit. So you take your, I like to start with sauce on the bottom. Oh, we didn't even get to the sauce. Let's talk about sauce. Before, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I'm getting excited. First things first with the sauce. If you have it in your kitchen, I highly recommend using it again. Also, I am all about the box chopper. It just saves you time. Everything's efficient. It is the same size. It is highly recommended. Everybody should have one. This is leftover from earlier. I was making a lot. This is about the size shape that you want to go for this dish. You want to aim for like these tiny little cubes. In here I have a mix of zucchini, yellow pepper, green pepper. I also have a yellow squash in there, and I also have pieces of leftover eggplant because they only had gigantic ones out of Gone Aiden this week at the grocery store. So when you make your sauce, you want to saute down your veggies. They're going to look nice and soft. These are ones that I did earlier. You want this like kind of translucent, very soft, but also still kind of holding its shape as far as the skins go. From there, as the recipe notes, you're going to throw in your tomato paste. You want it to get nice and caramelized. You're going to smell it. You want to be able to smell the tomato paste before you add anything else to it as far as the crushed tomatoes. If you have it, I recommend it. It's honestly, I don't use it in any other thing except for ratatouille sauce. Herbes de Provence from Trader Joe's. It's got a bunch of goofy things in it that you would never really think to put on anything, like lavender, like who's using that as a cooking ingredient, but okay, fine. But it tastes wonderful. It adds a really great dimension. If you don't have it, I recommend just using oregano or thyme. You can also put on here it says marjoram, basil, sage, rosemary, all of those things, any combination of them. If you want to take it in kind of a shakshuka sauce direction, obviously not with eggs, but I would go more of the paprika, red pepper kind of usage. And then you cook it down, and it really just becomes this really beautiful thick sauce. You can put it on top of zoodles. You can put it on top of anything. You could keep it in the freezer for a solid 2-3 months, probably. It defrosts very nicely. If you are somebody who eats eggs, you can go ahead and certainly turn this into a shakshuka. And yeah, so let's go ahead. Let's plate our eggplants.
Ariel, can you explain briefly what zoodles are for those who don't know?
Sure. Oh, I forget that, like, yeah, not everybody knows. Okay, zoodles are, let me see, do I even have a zucchini I could show you? I don't have a zoodler, but essentially a zucchini, a zoodle is when you take a zucchini, you would probably chop off these 2 ends here. You could plug it into a machine, and it's like a spiralizer, so it spiralizes it into almost a spaghetti. They also have them in the freezer section at Trader Joe's, and they have carrot spirals too. They defrost very nicely. They're great with bolognese. I use them to, when it's Pesach time, I chop up the carrot spirals and the zucchini spirals, and I use it in my latke mix to make them kind of like a confetti latke. But yeah, zoodles. It's essentially a zucchini noodle. Also great for low carb diet, all that stuff. Okay, great. So yeah, I like to start with a big helping of the, let's get this off our plate there, of the sauce, just kind of on the plate. You're going to take your eggplants. I like to use the kind of more, not, at this point, they've been sitting around a little bit. Hopefully you're serving these kind of right out the gate. I take the more kind of like floppier guys that I don't like the way they look on top as much. I place them on the bottom there. And it's very simple. Like I said, the goal here with all these recipes is it should be childproof. It should be very adaptable. And it's literally just like lasagna layering. You could turn this into a lasagna if you wanted to skip the breading and take the eggplant mixture and go in the direction of like the almond shaved cheese or ricotta mixture, the almond ricotta. And you could take it a bunch of different ways as far as a lasagna goes as well. You can do sheets of zucchini as well, kind of like pasta, similar to the zoodle, but instead like laying it out flat. And there you go. You just want to top them again, just probably a little less than you've been stacking in the middle. Again, the one thing that my grocery store didn't have that I wasn't able to grab fresh basil. But this would be the time where you would go ahead and you would probably, my dad would always say, and I think he's in here, I can see him there, his name is there. He would tell you not to cut it too early because it would bruise really hard. It's very true. I am a big fan of just the hand rip right on top as you're ready to serve it. Keep it fresh. The oils will come out right as you rip the basil. Throw it right on top. And there you go, eggplant stacks with ratatouille sauce. And no Pesach meal would be complete without dessert. So we're definitely going to top cake. I'm not going to sit you guys through the process of cake, but I definitely want to show you a few things. Okay. So there are two recipes in the recipe guide. One is a chocolate blueberry cake, and one is a it's a lemon almond cake. The lemon almond cake is admittedly it's a tough one. I'll get to it in a minute. Kind of my pitfall, my ups and my downs with it this morning. But this chocolate blueberry cake really blew my mind. It is not my recipe. I've adapted it a little bit, like just to my flavor profile a little, but it blew my mind that this came out at all. As the recipe will note, you want to make this blueberry puree. The first time I did this, I did not defrost my blueberries nearly enough. They were far too frosted, far too chunky. You want to really wait till your blueberries are totally defrosted, and you're going to end up with this very, here, let me get this one. Show you with a knife. You want a very like syrupy, very pureed mixture. It should be pretty defrosted when you use it to blend it in like something like this, which like a Fruit Ninja, a blender, a food processor. If it's having trouble getting started, you can go ahead, you can use some sugar. I think the recipe noted honey. Melissa pointed that out to me, and then I was looking through it. I don't think it even said in the midst of the recipe to use it. So you can go ahead and you can ignore that note, or you can substitute with regular sugar. I have extra blueberry puree, so I'm going to use it for plating purposes. What I like to do is I like to put it in the middle. We're going to shake it out so it gets a little spread out all over the plate. It makes a very small cake, I will say. If you want to double it, it doubles very nicely, but I happen to like the daintiness. We're a family of 3 this year as far as Pesach goes, so I definitely don't need extra chocolate cake lying around. Also, make sure you parchment paper everything with Pesach cakes. Pesach cakes are gooey. They will stick. They will not fall. They will fall apart if you don't. So make sure parchment paper everything. And I like to throw it down. See, gooey. Make sure you have parchment paper. I'm gonna wash my hands really fast. This recipe also works really well with raspberries. You can use mixed berries. You can use blackberries. You can use wine if you want. Like you can really send it in a lot of different directions. It is when you make it, it's gonna feel really weird because the ingredients are literally just cocoa powder, sugar, baking powder, blueberries, and some salt. Like that's all that's in it, and it comes together like a cake. You will be shocked. Trust it. Just trust me, trust it. I promise it works. I didn't think it was going to work, but it really does. For the sake of this cake, I happen to be using coconut and everything, so I probably just go ahead and top it with some nice shredded coconut. In my house, we like white chocolate. It is not necessarily plant-based, so you know you can pick your. You can find, I believe. I'm not even sure actually, plant-based white chocolate. I'm not sure if they have such a thing. I assume not.
They do in some kosher stores. So if you have kosher groceries around you,
Yeah,
it's
they
very
have the carb stuff.
yeah, it's very likely you will find some there.
Right. Okay. And then I go ahead and I just drizzle some more of the blueberry sauce, the blueberry puree that's in it. The cake is a very like puddingy kind of blueberry. It's delicious. I was blown away the first time I made it. I was shocked. It really works. It's very good. It's certainly not cake in the sense that it's not like a fluffy light cake. But it's Pesach. Like, what are we gonna do? Like, really, who's complaining? Cake is cake on Pesach. If you can get it, you eat it. I would say the same.
Ariel,
Yeah, go ahead.
we have another challenge thrown out at you. If you are allergic to chocolate and a nut allergy, do you have recommendations for this? I was thinking about carob. Does carob work as an alternative? I don't know if that is.
You definitely use carob powder in this case. It is a nut-free cake, so it's certainly not a nut issue. But the carob, well, I'm not sure what carobs are, not nuts, right? I don't believe so. But that should work just fine. The powdered carob. Okay. I'm gonna also take this moment really fast as a teaching opportunity, as just a learning curve. Again, like I told you, I'm not like a professional vegan baker by any stretch. And this morning I was working through a recipe and I opened the oven and I was like, this is not, you guys maybe it looks nice on camera, I don't know, but this is not what cake should look like, right? Let's be honest, it's not really here. Your cake shouldn't do that, right? Like that's not the right thing. Like, yeah, fine, we got some really pretty caramelizing, crystallizing going on, but that's the edge, and the edge is good for that. So that said, I'm going to be sending an adjusted recipe. The oil amount in this case was far too high. That was what went wrong here. Thank you to Claire Sappitz from Bon Appetit. I highly recommend watching those YouTube videos while we're all stuck and have some time, because you will learn something about technique. My goodness, she is exceptional. So through some trial and error, we ended up working through another cake, less oil. Instead, if you guys have it in front of you, you guys can take note that I used a third of a cup of oil instead of the 3/4. Again, far too much. Another baking error. I was so excited. I nailed the cake. I was like, yeah, we fixed it. The other cake, like I figured it out. And then I got too excited and I went to flip it over too early. So it definitely didn't hold well. It will hold if you let it cool completely. Don't do what I did. Don't flip it early. Don't get too excited. You can save it with powdered sugar. That's what I've done. And it's going to taste good no matter what. Again, it's cake. Who's really complaining? But don't get too excited. Don't get too hyped up about it.
Ariel, how long would you say you should have? I had the same problem with flipping things and not letting things set. For this, how long would you have waited extra?
Initially I waited probably like 20 minutes, I would say, till it's totally cool, and I would even throw it in the fridge, like get it cold if anything, and if you want to reheat it like a slice, like after that, like that's probably the direction to go. And but yeah, definitely wait till it's totally cool. Just in case, just because I'm not sure any other middle ground there. I definitely know don't do it when I do it.
Ariel, who did you say you recommend watching on YouTube?
All the Bon Appetit kitchen videos, but specifically Claire Sappitz. She has a series called Gourmet Makes, where she attempts to make like snack foods as real things, but more than anything, the way she talks about the food and the science and figuring out how to get enough lift in your product, and you know how the chemistry comes together with the baking soda and seltzers and different things, like just from a science standpoint, it's fascinating. So I highly recommend. That's the best thing you can do with cooking. My dad from the get-go, he always said it's about technique. You don't need to memorize recipes. I don't have an arsenal of recipes memorized. This is all off the cuff. The fact that I had to write it down was the biggest challenge, because it truly is about feel and technique. Like, you know, if you want a sauce on top of something fried, it's simple. You know now how to set up a dredging station. It's a little tricky with Pesach, figuring out, you know, kind of the swaps between like matzah meal and how to turn that into something that's more exciting when you're not using breadcrumbs. But otherwise, yeah, it's really just about playing and experimenting and not being afraid to, where to go, to make your cakes look like this or whatever. It's gonna be great to clean. I'm so excited.
You have some fans who are wishing you could send them your food. So wanted to share that with you since I know you're not reading the chats right now.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, I don't have it open, but I will say. I wish I could send it. But you guys can do it all. I'm truly, it's all, I mean, like, I don't want to say dummy proof because none of you are dummies, but it is. Like, my daughter can do all this. She was doing most of it with me. Like, I kicked her out so she could go to school on the computer. But like, she helped with the majority of this stuff. As long as I will say, just from a technique standpoint, the biggest thing you can do for yourself is mise en place, which everything in its place is what it means. Have everything, when you read your recipe, get your ingredients out first. Don't spend time like chopping it because that's what's going on in step 3. Read through the whole thing, have it ready. Your onions should be chopped, throw them in, don't stress. Like those kinds of things will save you time. It's about working smart, not hard.
Are you ready for some questions now? Or did you have more to show us? I don't want to stop the showing part.
No, I mean, it's really simple. I mean, I will forward along some more recipes and I'll forward along the updated one. But otherwise, I mean, whatever you guys have, let's go.
So that was awesome. Thank you so much. And I'm so appreciative that you also shared the cake fail, because it's nice to know that not only people like me have fails, but even someone who's so adept at cooking. So I love it. I'm assuming it'll be tasty, like eaten like a pudding or something.
Maybe not.
But I promise I did not prompt Davida, but I told you that someone is going to ask about matzo balls, and you need to respond to that because it's hard. Matzo balls without eggs can be challenging, and so she posted a question about matzo balls. So have you had time to research that or try that?
Yes, we just so everybody else, just to break the fourth wall a little bit, the 3 of us were speaking last week about what to do with matzo balls. It's been a thing. And it's been something that Lisa's been kind of working and struggling with for years. She sent over 2 recipes. The one with the seltzer I tried, it works great. I mean, honestly, seltzer is a very, I don't remember the specific proportions, and I'll have her forward that recipe, but the seltzer is a really, it does a nice job. And I've seen other recipes since looking into that have seltzer in it anyway, even with the egg. There's something that's going on there. There was a really, really nice recipe. I think it was the Washington Post, and I can forward that one along. That was, it had like potatoes gone through a ricer with the seltzer, and that was the binder. And that worked really well too. So whatever, yeah.
Then I'll share that recipe with everyone as well. So we, in our family, we've tried, probably 20 different varieties over the last 20 years. And one time they worked out fabulously, and I didn't write down what it was. And of course, Passover doesn't happen again for another year. And I thought I'd remember, and I didn't. And I had this vague memory about seltzer, but I did find one that sort of, you can put, carbonated beverage in that sort of operates in lieu of eggs. So she tried that over the weekend, and it worked. So I will send that to you. I also found one with white beans in it. So if you are eating kidney oat, then that could work as well. But I'll send you those 2 recipes. I'm glad it worked for you.
Yeah, it was actually really good. And I had never put herbs in my matzo ball separately. I'm a sucker for the package. They have the proportions right. I don't know what they did in there. There's witchcraft, but they Manischewitz, they know what they're doing. But when I do it from scratch, like I never even thought to put in like the dried parsley, the whole thing, putting the dill in the matzo ball. Also we talked about this last week, and I just want to bring this up. If you're boiling your matzo balls in water, boil them in the soup. If it's not too crowded, you shouldn't be boiling them in water. It's okay if you do, but the flavor should be infused in the matzo ball. My mother-in-law does it. It blew my mind. I was like, why are there separate pots for this? Melissa told me her mom does it. Trust me, just try it. Do it all in one pot one time. Just see what happens.
Ariel, I just wanted to thank you for mentioning the Washington Post article. There's a paywall for that. So if you want to, not that we should not support the Washington Post, but for the greater good of making matzo balls, maybe if
I can write it down with my adjustments.
Yeah, exactly. Also, we had a question about using Just Egg, the product Just Egg in matzo balls. So I will be the first to admit that even though they make it very clear that you should not use it for things like matzo balls, I tried it anyway. It was an abysmal failure. Do not do it. You will get a soup filled with just granules of, wet matzo meal. However, I have used the vegan egg product from Follow Your Heart as a binder, and they came out a bit dense. So I'm not sure I would recommend that either. It's the recipe from Edgy Veg, which we'll send out, that I think, Ariel, that's the one you're referencing with the seltzer. That one does not use, it doesn't really use an egg substitute. It's matzo meal, seltzer, coconut oil, potato starch, and dried herbs and salt and pepper. So there's no, it's not always like a one-to-one where if you have eggs, you need an egg substitute. It's really about, chemistry that I don't understand the science of, but it works. So I'm glad, Ariel, that those recipes worked out for you.
And Davina, to answer your question about the making the mix work, we always use the mix, and we did make it work, and I believe it was the seltzer. So yeah, so what I would do, the edgy veg recipe that we're going to share with all of you, I would actually just swap in the mix if that's what you have, but use her suggestions for the other stuff.
Would flax meal work? Ground up flax, a little bit of water? Would that work to replace eggs? Has anybody tried it?
Yes, there are matzo ball recipes with flax. However, some people, depending on their kidney oat practice, may or may not use flax.
I've actually tried using the flax with the mix and it didn't work. So that's why I was asking. But
I feel like flax is better in baking substitutions, but not in something that is going to go through the stress of being boiled because it's kind of bouncing around. So I feel like it's not strong enough. But I do like flax, like if you're baking muffins or something as a substitute for eggs.
That's a great point, Lisa, because I think the flax meal recipe that I saw was a bake and then boil or boil and then bake recipe. So it's
and
also
Sarah
more
shared
steps.
that she said that she has had success baking the matzo balls, and I have seen a lot of vegan recipes that call for that too. So you sort of bake them in the oven first, so they're made and formed, and then you'd pop them in the soup more as you're about to serve the soup, which is definitely what I think a lot of vegans do. But I think that these other ones that are working with the seltzer water for boiling in the soup taste more like what we remember. So the aquafaba is being asked about. If you will eat kidney oat during Passover, could you use aquafaba, which is the liquid from a can of garbanzo beans or other white beans? I don't know if you have anything to say about that, Ariel. We have tried that in our house and it does not work for matzo balls. They still disintegrate.
I would say that if you're, I don't know, I've never tried it. My instincts tell me that if you whip the aquafaba, not to the point where it's the egg white replacement that they use it for, but if you probably get some air into it and make it a little more gelatinous instead of just being the chickpea liquid, if it had a little bit more body to it, that would probably solve some of that issue. They're nice and starchy, so it should be okay. And if you wanted to even add potato starch to it, that certainly would probably turn it into the right kind of slurry.
That's true. Someone was asking Sarah if you can answer, do the baked ones fall apart if they're left in the soup?
I was just typing, but I'll just answer. So I eat them too fast to really be able to answer that accurately. I don't think they would. I know that we've had I helped run some vegan seders, and we've had caterers who do the same thing, that they bake them, and then when you get your soup, you take one and put it in. And so I don't think I've ever seen that they fall apart. But again, there's a matzo ball, I'm eating it first. So sorry, I don't have a better answer.
That's awesome. And if people have other questions about substitutions, because we know that right now it can be hard to go get groceries or get things that you want, Ariel is really good at helping think of fun things to make. So if you want to throw stuff out at her of something that you have that you're wondering what you could do with it for Passover, she's really, really capable of answering those questions as well.
And feel free to unmute yourselves directly and just shoot some questions out.
And if no one asks, I'll throw out at you. You said something about bananas that intrigued me. You said, I'm going to help people figure out how to do a banana Passover recipe, but I guess I didn't hear what it was. So I'm going to ask you to tell us what it is.
I saw these and I was like, whoa, what are we going to do? I mean, there's a few different things you could do with bananas. I will start off by saying I'm a banana phobe. I hate bananas more than any food on this planet, but my daughter loves them, so I've really gone out of my way to try and make them delicious and in a way that I can kind of handle too. I recommend doing banana ice cream certainly is like a very, very cool thing. You literally just blend the bananas in a food processor. You can add a little bit of vanilla, you can add chocolate chips, you can add cocoa powder, you can add mint. I don't know if I would do mint and banana, but like you could definitely add peanut butter. You could definitely, so banana ice cream, certainly a fun thing. What I'm probably gonna aim to do with these is probably banana bread. As always, everybody, I don't know what happened that like this whole quarantine kicked off and everybody became a banana bread extraordinaire. I have a recipe that I'm happy to share that we really like here. It's got a really nice like the sugar in the raw like crusted top. So I definitely would utilize this. Also, I have other things in the house that I need to use up, like applesauce and things like that. So that will continue to be my egg replacer. So yeah, if anybody else has like other banana ideas too. I mean, of course, like I'm always on the hunt for new things. We do pancakes with them, muffins, everything. Oh, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I would say that a fun thing to always do is to flambe. If you want to like slice them up and throw them like in a pan with some sugar and just get it kind of nice and caramelized. If you want to flambe it and go the extra step with the alcohol, if you want to brave that, that goes very well over ice cream. You can put that on top of just broken up matzah. You know, it's for I would say that bananas caramelized in a pan with just sugar, simple, easy. Again, I don't love it, but everybody else seems to. So that's great. But yeah, bananas are very sweet in general. And also the browner they are, like the more pudding-like they get, and the better they are for those kinds of things. You want your things to taste like banana if you're making them like bananas. So definitely don't use like these guys. This is not brown enough to be saying, eat your banana. If it looks like this, eat it. Like you're fine, you'll be okay. If it looks like this, maybe not. maybe try something else with it.
There's also a banana charoset if you're feeling adventurous. I believe it's a recipe that's from African communities. And in the past in our household, when we've done kind of like an around the world experience with charosets, we've done a banana charoset. It was very delicious.
And Lisa had mentioned that you could take banana skins and it become, she in the previous conversation, and you can take banana skins and cook them down and they become kind of almost like how people use jackfruit as like a pulled meat substitute with some barbecue sauce on a sandwich, when it's not Pesach time. Like that would definitely be a great idea for them.
How does that taste, the banana peels? Because I've been too afraid to try it. Has anybody tasted it in like a barbecue type thing?
In our house, we made them into like a bacon substitute, and so they weren't like shredded up. It was like a strip of it. You kind of take any of the pulp off of the inside and just use the outside, and then you soak them in like some oil, some soy sauce, and some liquid smoke. And then we roasted them over a pan. And, you know, by the time they were in a sandwich with other veggies and, you know, lettuce and tomato, like it had like a kind of, you know, good sort of savory flavor. When I tried it by itself, it was a little bit bitter, but I'm very excited about the ways in which we don't have to throw things away that we used to throw things away, which is like the aquafaba. I mean, I think of how many restaurants are pouring the liquid from the cans of garbanzo beans down the drain when they're making hummus, whereas that stuff is like liquid gold and you can make so much out of it. But I didn't do it like in the sort of jackfruit type of way.
To also echo what Lisa said about taking things kind of to their full use, what I highly recommend for everybody is that you get the biggest freezer bag you can find, and every time you have a vegetable that you're not using that's going to go a little off, that has scraps, like I have the peppers from having the peppers earlier, like those are in there, the tops, like I have carrot peels. This makes liquid gold. This is vegetable broth that you just put this in a pot, let it sit for like 6 hours over like a really light simmer. Don't salt it till the very end because you don't know how much you're going to end up with. You want to do the right amount of salt for what the amount of liquid that you end up with when it's done. But this, make vegetable stock, put it in everything, make it with pasta, make it with everything that you're using this week as far as Pesach. Like that's another thing I'll say is this is about flavor. This week is about flavor. Like I utilize sweet chili. I utilize the diced chilies, sweet pickle relish. Like you want to do things that are full of flavor this week, and certainly just all the time. But especially with Pesach, when it can really feel very bland with just matzah, left and right, matzah. Like you don't want to do just matzah with avocado toast. Like you want to do maybe matzah with avocado toast, and take the time to put together some marinated onions or whatever other things you want to do, or the everything bagel seasoning. It doesn't have to be so crazy, so boring. Just because they had it rough in Egypt doesn't mean that we have to have it so terribly. Especially, we have it hard enough given what's going on. Like, don't make it hard on yourselves. Eat well. Don't be hard on yourself. Make it delicious. Enjoy it.
We have a few last minutes if anyone wants to pose any more questions to Ariel. If not, Ariel, I know that you had maybe a couple of suggestions for things like sauces, just to make dishes come alive in a way that's you know, brings the real like flavor and texture out of the main thing that you're putting in the dish. So if you have any other suggestions for sauces, kind of akin to what you were doing with the zucchini and ratatouille sauce to share with folks.
Yeah, this is, again, like people come into the kitchen and they're like, how do I make red sauce taste like red sauce? Because we have an expectation, we've been eating our whole lives tomato sauce out of a jar, tomato sauce from a restaurant. Tomato sauce is one of the easiest things. Nobody should be buying it. I don't have any onions currently, I'm out of onions, but literally take a can of crushed tomatoes, especially for pizzas. Don't do anything to pizza sauce. Don't put pizza sauce on. Crushed tomatoes. You want to put a zhuzher through it. You want to go ahead and use just tomatoes as far as plain as they come, honestly, when it comes to tomato sauce. They really are very bright and lively on their own. But as far as adding in other flavors, like you really do want to, like this week is all about the spice cabinet. Like this week is all about using this is when you take out all of your like Trader Joe's arsenal of all of the fun flavors they've created over the past like 6 months. Like I'm trying to see which ones I have here. Let's see, like everything bagel and the oh my goodness, of course this is fantastic. I use this all the time, vegan or not, whatever I'm working on, but from Trader Joe's, if you can make your way there, this is exceptional stuff. Just season your stuff. Like that's truly it. Anytime you're using matzah meal, put something else in it. Don't just put matzah meal. Why? Again, why are you eating just matzah? Like it's what they did in the desert, but we don't need to live like that now. When you're making like things like if you do matzah pizza with the vegan cheese, you can also instead maybe my dad did this a few years ago, blew my mind. He instead of doing red sauce, put salsa and the cheese, and then you can put anything you want on it from there. You could put sliced jalapenos, chilies. If you're eating kidney beans or something, you can make like a really big hefty dish out of a few simple things that are already probably sitting in your pantry that you probably panic bought a few weeks ago, like me. So like, I mean, like that's how everybody is. Use those things. Layer your flavor. Make sure everything has salt. You think you're using enough salt, you're not. Use more, unless you're not for dietary purposes. It's really just about flavor and layering your flavor every step that you can. And don't be afraid. You know your flavor profile. You know what you want. You know what if you're really truly stumped about a quantity, and certainly with baking, follow the proportions, except for when I give you an oil proportion. That's the one thing you should follow. But follow recipes for baking. Baking is chemistry. Cooking is flavor. Cooking is about the way you love your food, the way, I mean, think about growing up, like the things that your mom or your dad made or whoever, your grandma, it doesn't matter. Like those are the things that speak to you and define you. And those are the flavors that you bring to your homes now and to your children and their children. Don't be afraid of it. Be expressive. It's boring if you're just cooking other people's recipes. It's very boring.
Thank you so much. Do we have any last questions, comments, anything before we wrap? We're just at time.
I'm accessible anywhere else if you guys have questions. If you guys are looking at your pantry and you're like, what do I make with these things? Like there's an app that you can actually use where you can plug those things in and it'll tell you. But I'm also available for that. You can follow
That's so sweet. We'll include your email address with the follow-up recipes. That's really nice of you.
Of course. I love it. This is Food is, I love food. Food is my life. Food is my world. And any way that I can help you guys enjoy it more. I mean, food is we all eat. We all got to eat. So we got to enjoy it, right? 3 times a day.
Lisa,
Yes.
I emailed you a Passover Seder recipe Sprout Cafe. It's all raw, uncooked. A lot of it's very labor intensive, but I did a couple of the simple, easy ones. I did the, what did I do? I did the, I'm doing the chorosat. I'm not going to do the nuts and balls soup this year because it just doesn't work. But I made the horseradish and beet sauce, which is really simple, and the chopped liver. It's made with garbanzo beans and portobello. So I emailed that to you if you wanted to share it with everybody.
Oh, sure. Thank you so much.
You bet.
I will include that. I mean, everyone likes great ideas. Thank you.
I want to thank, first of all, Lisa and Shamayim for partnering with us on bringing this webinar to life, and hopefully it enriched your time right now at home, and hopefully this also gives you some inspiration going forward for the holiday. And Ariel, we can't thank you enough for taking the time very last minute to pull all of these recipes together and write them out, which I know was a challenge, so that you could share what you've created
Ariel,
with us.
I'm really glad we made your dreams of having a cooking show come true for today. You deserve it. So you're super dynamic.
I will send an updated one with more proportions kind of like adjusted out, because as I was cooking through again this morning, like some things kind of, again, like you come to light as far as the feel, and what worked yesterday doesn't necessarily work today. So I'll send you what did work today.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Be safe, be well, Chag Sameach, and
Happy Passover.
Happy Passover. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Mama.